Hey everyone, welcome back to Tea Time. Today we are joined by Diana Mireles. So just give me a moment and then she will jump on.
Hi,
Hello. Hi. How's it going?
good. And with yourself? How are you?
Doing good. Did you get your tea okay?
I did, thank you.
Oh, cool. All right. I'm not doing a tea today. I'm just doing a LaCroix, but
It's okay. Hydration
yeah,
is fine.
happy to have you, Diana. So welcome to
Thank
Tea
you.
Time. I'd like to start out with just giving you a second to introduce yourself to our audience and explain a little bit more about why you're here.
Okay, cool. So my name's Diana Karen. I'm born and raised in LA. I'm a runner in the LA community. I'm into sneakers and I'm also work-wise, I'm experienced in the social media marketing industry.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much for joining, and thanks to Steph who connected us. I know she's
Of
been helping
course.
me,
Hey,
so it's been
Steph.
great. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we can definitely dive right in. I think that you and I had a really interesting conversation a couple weeks ago when we were planning this, and you brought up a lot of points that I feel like we don't necessarily get into too much.
Mhm.
With you having a background of one being a first generation American and having immigrant parents.
Mhm.
I think, especially now knowing like we're getting into election season, there's so much on, everyone's minds. I'd like to kind of know like, what does that look like? And you still live at home with your parents, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I'm the last one left here.
Aw, that's the baby.
I am.
um, that's how it goes. But so I'm wondering, like what does your day to day sort of look like?
So, as you mentioned, I'm the first generation Mexican American. My parents did migrate in their early 20s. Um, Myself and both of my older sisters were born here. Growing up, my dad was always the provider. My mom was always stay-at-home mom. My dad started his own business, self-employed. Um, I mean, growing up, I myself never experienced any like struggles really. They always did everything they could to go above and beyond to give us everything we wanted. Even throughout college, I was lucky and fortunate enough to have my dad pay for my entire 4 years, 5 years at college. And because of that, I don't have any student loans. So he got me my first car. And yeah, I was really fortunate to have my parents, come here for a better life and um, help us live our life, here with everything that we needed and everything that we wanted.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel, I mean, I guess considering like, so you're born and raised in Venice and we're in Venice.
I
So like,
am.
we're
Hmm.
all kind of within the same neighborhood, which is
Hmm.
amazing. What was life kind of like growing up in this area?
So I don't know if you know Venice before what it is now, but it definitely wasn't the same thing as currently, how Venice is. We definitely had to be inside as soon as the street lights went on. It just wasn't
Wow.
like the safest neighborhood. You did hear the helicopter often, gunshots. So, I mean, you definitely wanted to just be careful and be safe within the area. But we moved in '98, which I was 8 years old. And going back now to like my childhood home, it still looks exactly the same as when we left, but it's completely different. Like there's like different buildings around that have been like gentrified, like houses just look like completely different. They don't look like anything what they did before. But I mean, overall, it was, a really good experience growing up there because it all my life my childhood memories were there. So, now moving to Culver City, which is not like even 3 miles away from where I used to live, like going back, like being able to reminisce and think about, growing up. Yeah, it's just really good memories with Venice and it'll forever be my hometown.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. I feel like everyone's a transplant here. So to talk to somebody that is born and raised in Venice is like incredible.
Yeah, you
Um,
never really hear of that. Everyone kind of
You
just
don't
moves
ever
here.
really hear about that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Like, so, you being a first generation Mexican American. That's actually how, same as my roommate is first generation
Mhm.
Mexican American as well. Actually, that's not even true. He was born in Mexico, so that he wouldn't be considered first generation even.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's like kind of a different life versus some like you like I'm sure there's like struggles. I feel like I've always seen so much content online about like things that only kids understand who have parents that speak Spanish as a first language or
Mhm.
things like that. Do you feel like it had like in what ways do you feel like it's kind of shaped you who you are today and kind of like where your passions are? You mentioned that your parents supported you throughout all of your different passions throughout
Mhm.
college. I see that huge sneaker collection behind you. We'll get into that shortly. But like where do you think like that started from? Like I mean, I'm just kind of curious to see how that might have impacted your overall like span of your life.
So, I mean, just seeing how my dad like worked all his way up to like be his own boss and like have his own company and like continue to grind like day after day, even like through failures, like he would still stand up and keep going. So it definitely taught me to like be resilient and like just keep striving for whatever I wanted to do because my dad did it and like that's all he showed. Like so growing up and like even now today, like just being strong and grinding out and going after what I want, no matter what it is. And, my parents are very old school minded. They still have like, to share their values. They both grew up in the same part of Mexico in the same little ranch. So they both share the same old school mentality. So, growing up with that, it definitely was like different. We weren't like allowed to like sleep over at friend's house. We weren't like allowed to do a lot of things. My older sister's the one that had it worse because she had to be home like before 10, which is like
Hmm.
what even starts before 10. But yeah, I mean, definitely just growing up with like just, that old school mentality and like making sure you're still obeying your parents at the same time because that is like Mexican culture. You always have like your parents there and you're just pretty much there supporting them. And like even now I'm the last one left at home. My older sister, married, moved out with their own families. And even now, just with English, I mean, Spanish being their first language and English being their second language, I'm the one that does help them out through everything, whether it be like with bills or just getting stuff done. I'm the one that's always there, helping them through it all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy that you're here. So, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and so we turned over Tea Time to really expand to all different communities that MagicLinks touches. Historically, up until this point, Tea Time has been focused mostly on the Black community. And, we realize that our work doesn't start or end with just one racial group. And although there's a lot of injustices happening that are very specific to being a Black American right now, we,
Hmm.
want to make sure that we're learning from all types of points of views and getting every single type of story that's out there. And so, speaking of that, like, tea time for us isn't even just now about talking about race issues or talking about what it's like to be a minority. I think it's interesting to see how that might shape you. But what is killing me to talk about is this freaking shoe collection behind you. What is so? Tell me how this started. I want to know from like the beginning. When did this start? I mean, your Instagram's insane. So I'd
Thank
love
you.
to learn more. Yeah.
It all started back in '99 through my older sister, Lindsay. She had a pair of like Jordans and it just caught my eye. I was still too young, but I would like put on her shoes. She handed them down to me, and ever since then, I just started, paying more attention to sneakers. Every Saturday, that's when Jordans would release. Uh, I would just ask my parents, like, hey, like in exchange for this, like I'll do chores, I'll, whatever it was. But every weekend they're like, all right, it's the last one. Like, you cannot ask us anymore next week. And like, sure enough, next week would come around, would ask them for their credit card, call up like Eastbay on the phone. You can't do that anymore. Everything like just sells out and it's so hard to get. But yeah, I mean, it kind of started from there. My parents never said no, which is another thing that like I'm truly grateful for because I'm pretty sure they had their own struggles with us growing up, but they really went above and beyond to not, show us that side of them struggling. They always provided us with everything, gave us everything we wanted. So they never told me no growing up. And, it kind of got to a point where as soon as I turned 16, I wanted to get my first job so that I can start buying my own shoes. I didn't have to, ask my parents to buy me things anymore so they can, save their money for whatever they needed it for. So from there, I started working. My first couple paychecks just went straight directly into sneakers.
Wow.
And yeah, I it's just been a habit and, a passion of mine that's never really gone away ever since 99. So it's been
That
over
is
20 years now.
insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like there's some obvious questions that we got to ask. Like, how many pairs of shoes do you currently own, ballpark? Or do you know the exact amount?
I don't know the exact amount just because I go through like little phases of like, okay, I have way too many. Like, I need to get rid of some. Like, they're just sitting there like crumbling apart. Like, I just pretty much go through phases where I like start getting rid of like a few.
Yeah.
But at one point, I know I did have like close to like 250, 275. Right now, I probably currently have like maybe like 120 around, give or
Okay.
take.
And what do you do with them like once you're done with them? Do you donate or how do you kind of deal with old ones?
Well, I mean, my shoes, I don't really get to wear them as much as I can because I mean, I have so many that I just kind of like
Hmm.
rotate. But I mean, even like now through quarantine, like I haven't really worn shoes. Like I'm like all about
Yeah.
Crocs right now because it's like I
Yeah.
don't have anywhere to go. Like if I'm gonna put them on, it's just gonna be to like throw the like trash out or something. But I usually either just like hand them down to like either my cousins or get rid of them through like resale markets like Poshmark and
Okay.
because a lot of my shoes do still hold their value since they are still
Hmm.
like pretty much new. So and it's just like a non ongoing cycle because like I'll sell them just to buy like other ones. So it's like it just keeps rotating. But at the same time, I'm not like spending any like new money on shoes because it just keeps,
True.
revolving.
You're in the cycle. Okay, so
Yeah, so it's like a
that's
non
fair.
like never ending cycle. Yeah.
Mike asked, "What are your favorite Jordans ever?"
My favorite Jordans ever. I'm gonna have to go with the Columbia fours, only because those are what got me started with them.
Okay.
But I'd also probably say like the Jordan 11 breads and the Chicago ones.
How do you feel about like the sneaker? Obviously, like the sneaker community is a super like hardcore niche group, especially on
Hmm.
social media, right?
Right.
Um, like what how do you feel about like when like a sneaker kind of goes more like mainstream like now like Air Forces everyone has like does that
Hmm.
do you like that or does it start to bother you like do you feel like you want to have what no one else has or how do you think about your sneakerology?
I went through like a different phase of like at first, because when I first started in getting into sneakers, it wasn't really like girls weren't really into sneakers at the time. Like it was
Mhm.
really kind of frowned upon. Like you were looked at as a tomboy, like it's only like a guy thing type thing to do. But as like time went on, like more girls started like getting into sneakers, more shoes like you mentioned started getting into, mainstream, such as the Air Force One. And it kind of used to bug me at first, like she wasn't even into sneakers. Like, why is she into
Mhm.
sneakers now? But then like now I like start to realize like it doesn't really matter when you get into it because I'm pretty sure at the time like when I was into shoes like early on 2000s like maybe someone older that's like me were like, oh, why is she into sneakers, she wasn't into sneakers before. So it's kind of something that I guess people eventually start liking on their own. And it's such a small but big community at the same time where it's like, I mean, everyone, wears shoes, so why not wear what you like? But it
Right.
definitely is harder to get shoes nowadays than how it was back then. Like now it's like you want a shoe, but if it's caught the eye of many other people, then chances of you getting it at retail are like really low.
So, okay, you've touched on 2 points that I think we should get into. So the first is a little less heavy, so let's talk about that maybe first. Talk about like where do you cop shoes in LA then? Because I feel like that it's very competitive here. I know that much at least. So, are you waiting in lines at places? Do you have like a dealer? Like what do you how do you get your shoes? I truly know nothing. I'm so basic. I'm calling myself out as one of those basic bitches that's wearing the Air Force ones because that's me.
You're good. You can't go wrong with Air
um,
Forces.
but like I'm seriously like, how do I get into this? Like, do I need to have like someone like in the black market doing like where do we start?
Honestly, if you're like just starting now, like good luck, first of all, like if I'm being real with you.
Okay.
Only because it's like unless you really don't care about like hype,
Mm-hmm.
or even want to get started with that, like you're cool walking into like a Foot Locker or like a Champs or whatever to get your sneakers, whether it be like the Air Force, even the Air Force Ones, like the lows and whites, they're so hard to get in stores
Yeah.
or just like anywhere. They're always sold out. But honestly, it's either on sneakers on release, but your chances are like super, super slim, or just like testing your luck with raffles because it's really hard. Or if you just don't get lucky at retail, you got to go to like a resale market like StockX or Go or Stadium Goods or whatever, you know. But you have to be prepared to pay more than what you probably were expecting to, and it's kind of like
And
your
do you
own
typically pay
personal
more?
preference.
Do you typically pay
Oh, not
more
at
or
all.
no?
No,
So how
no.
are you getting
I
these before anyone else?
Yeah, I'm usually team retail. I mean,
Okay.
unless it's something that I really want, my like max and I'm willing to spend. The I'd probably say 250, but even that alone is like too deep for some
Too
shoes.
deep. So what about like Yeezys or like more? Do you do any sort of like shoes that are more than 250 ever? What's the most you've ever spent on shoes?
Most I ever spend on shoes is 1,200, but it was like designer shoes. So,
Okay. That's
but like
not, we're
when
in
it
LA.
comes to
That's a quick like step down the street and you can get that anywhere. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's like designer shoes. When it comes to
Yeah.
like basketball athletic shoes, the most I probably spend is 350, which would
Okay.
be on some like Air Max One, the Atmos elephant print, and those were because like that was like my shoe. That's like probably like by far my favorite shoe. But other than that, I if I don't get it at retail, I'm not gonna go after it.
Okay, so you're a conscious consumer, yet you
Yeah,
are a sneaker fanatic, which is I think that seems to be like a happy medium, right?
yeah.
Um, so okay, that's interesting. Now I want to chat about the sneaker community, right? Because we know that the sneaker community is extremely male dominated. You already mentioned that it's kind of frowned upon to be a woman that's into sneakers. So tell me a little bit more about what that experience has been like, being a woman and having an interest that is considered to be more like masculine and like male dominated.
Well, it definitely times have changed. I mean, some just because like now more girls are like into it than they were before. But yeah, when I first started, even my parents were like, "Oh, why are you like into shoes? That's like a guy thing to do." But now that more girls is like more socially acceptable. Um, Even then though, like brands don't really collaborate much with women. Like it's only a very like handful of like the same couple of women that like collaborate with sneaker brands. And even in like the shoes that release like exclusively for women, like most of the colorways are like pinks or purple. And it's like, we don't want that. Like we just want like the same thing that like guys are getting, but just make it in our size type thing. But yeah, I mean, it definitely has changed to a certain extent when it comes to like the consumers, but with stuff that's available for us in our size that isn't necessarily like women exclusive, that's not like a purple or pink colorway. It definitely needs some type of change because there hasn't been much like progression when it comes to that.
What would you say? So it seems like there's a lot of progress that needs to happen on the brand and advertiser side. What
Hmm.
about the actual community of consumers? How does
The
that feel
actual, I
to
mean,
you?
it definitely has grown. Like, I mean, even just like with social media alone, like I've been able to meet and like have social like Insta friends with all over the world of like girls that are like into shoes and we're able to share like that passion of ours. And I mean that definitely has changed. But again, I feel like on the brand side, there definitely is some change that needs to be made, even with like advertising. Like it's always like the same, like I mentioned, same couple of girls that are like used for like campaigns, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, I can't really relate to them because they've already been used like so many times that at this point they're kind of known for that. Like I want to see girls that are like me, you know?
Do you follow a lot of female sneakerheads?
I do. I
Okay.
do. I feel social is definitely a good place for that, and I've been able to make friends in like Europe and Mexico with like, you know, just sharing their shoes and sharing that passion, and we've been able to create a friendship that way.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such a cool thing to be connected by because it's
Mm.
obviously universal and it's just fun, right? Like, who doesn't
Right, right,
love shoes to begin with?
right.
But that's good for us to know. Like, part of why we do tea time is as we're really in the brand influencer space, it's important to learn about people like you that are both somebody that we could cast for a campaign, somebody that we should be targeting with the campaign, and someone that we should talk to brands about. You know, like when
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a shoe campaign, we work with a lot of these large, big box brands. Like you're a consumer that I'm sure is widely just like forgotten about. Like it's just like you're not even there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. I
yeah.
feel like it's such a male dominated like industry that most of the time, like even if they do try to target women, like it's always like a specific type of women that they're targeting to without realizing that it's like it's a lot more of us that aren't, you know, that specific target that are into it, and we're just not, we're kind of being excluded in a way.
Very interesting. That's really, really impactful feedback. So I'm excited to take that back to my team.
Cool.
So you're a runner, aside from all this. So, you know,
I am.
your feet are your favorite part of your body. You love to run, you love
Right.
to dress them up. Tell me about your, look, actually, speaking of running, let's talk about the fundraising that we're doing. So we donated $500 to For Girls on the Run LA on your behalf. So I'd like to know why you chose that organization.
I chose that organization because growing up, even like women in sports, even now, women don't really get that recognition. Even when it comes to like ESPN, like women are like on a different channel. Like NBA and like WNBA are not like that the same. And you know, most of the time, like I'll see like Twitter comments where like men are trash talking the women, or like if there's like a tweet that went viral, like praising women over like basketball, like there's always like some type of troll, and it's usually a guy that's like talking down on women. And you know, I think it's really important for young girls to know that there is that space for them. And then when it comes to Girls on the Run, the reason why I chose them is I had the opportunity to work with them and Adidas for an event where we pretty much got partnered up with a girl that was a part of the organization, and they got outfitted it with a Adidas outfit, and then we did like a scavenger hunt, but it was a 5K. So we were able to spend like half a day with them, and it was just really cool to see how they really did place the girls priorities like first, and like just pretty much showed them that like anything is really possible, and you know, just creating that space for them within like the sports industry and like just like running.
Yeah,
That's the reason why I went with
absolutely.
them.
That sounds great. And so, I mean, I love that you've already have like personally worked with that organization. Like that's such a nice tie-in as well. So we're happy that we were able to do that on your behalf. That's great.
Thank you, I appreciate
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, so then, I mean, in your running career as well, how has that evolved over time? Obviously, running shoes are very different than sneakers. So I bet you have a bunch of great pairs there too. But tell us a little bit more about that passion of yours.
So running, I started running about 5 years ago. I mean, I feel like just like any other like high school and middle school kid, I like dreaded the 1 mile trials. So I always like
Hated
hated like running.
that.
Yeah. I played softball in like middle school and high school, but I mean even then like running was looked on as like a punishment. Like, oh, if you like aren't paying attention, go run like a mile or whatever. So it was always looked at as punishment. I never really got into it. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago when I discovered Nike Run Club through like a sneaker event. And I decided to give it a try. I always went to the gym, but I never really saw any results. So I figured why not? But I ended up finding out that like the running community is like super welcoming. Like not only was I able to run with like Nike Run Club, but I also got introduced to a lot of different like local LA running groups where I created like different friendships, and like from there we all, it's kind of like the sneaker community, but like with running you create that like bond with someone where you're all working towards like the same goal, whether you're training for like the LA marathon or like a different race. And you know, everyone's kind of welcoming, and it's really cool to see there's like men, women, like different types of ages of like everyone just kind of working towards like the same goal of just staying like fit, healthy, and like even mentally, you know, healthy. Because I personally see running as like a way for me to like mentally release any like stress or anything that I'm thinking of, because everything just kind of, I forget about everything when I'm running pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how you met Steph.
Yes, that's how I met her, through running.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear. Yeah. Where do you feel, so you're from the Venice area, where do you like to run locally? Like where are your spots?
Um, Honestly, locally, I would say I since I don't live too far from Venice Beach, I used to do from like my house, which is like Culver City, down to like Venice Beach and back, which is about like 7-ish miles if I like take a longer route. But I did get to run with different run groups throughout LA. So it was like really cool to get to experience my own city on foot because you know, driving, you don't really get to see so many things that you do while you're like waiting at a stoplight or like whatever you're doing. But like running on foot, you definitely discover like little pockets of LA that have like their own little like thing that they're known for. So it was really cool to be able to experience like downtown alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know, it's nice to be able to run and like get out. Unfortunately, right now it's like the weather conditions are not so good because like with the fires and everything, and you
Yeah.
know, with social distancing, I'm not able to like run with the run group. But yeah, I mean, just throughout LA, different parts of LA, it's you know, it's really cool to be able to see the city through like a different view rather than just from like my car window.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best. I think that running is such an incredible way to see any city.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Diana, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to learn more about you and to shed light on your story. We have time for one more topic, and this is what I kind of like to close out with every single tea time guest, which is
Hmm.
to ask you for a young girl that's maybe wanting to pursue a passion like yours and do
Hmm.
something that's a little, I guess going against the current.
Hmm.
What advice would you give someone that is kind of starting to explore a passion like that?
I would say just keep going. If it's a passion of yours and it's something that you want to do, you're the only person that's really going to stop yourself. Like no one else can really stop you from doing what you want to do, and just stay positive, keep going. You don't know where you'll end up. You can go a different route once you continue going, but just keep your head on, you know, your shoulders and just look forward. You're not going back, so just keep going.
I love that. Okay, and
Yeah.
actually, I think we have a little. I wonder, can you show us one of your favorite pairs of shoes? Just one.
Yeah, let me see. Hold on, let me see if I can find the ones that give me a second. God, I can't find the ones that I wanted to show you. Oh, found them. Yeah, let me see. These are the ones that I paid 350 for, so I'll show you these.
Okay, those are
These are
baller. Oh
probably
yeah, those
my
are sick.
favorite pairs of shoes. Yeah. Oh, these.
And those are elephant print.
Yeah, the Elephant Print Air Max 1 Atmos.
Those are cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like those a lot. How do you style your sneakers? Like, what do you typically wear as like your full outfit?
Well, I start from the sneakers up. I usually let like my sneakers do like the statement piece, and
Hmm.
I'm typically a tomboy. Like I dress like a tomboy, so I'm either like with like sweatpants or like currently now like biker shorts with like an oversized tee, or like with the hoodie and sweatpants. I just pretty much let my shoes do the talking. I don't really, you know, pay much attention to like the outfit, but whatever like complements my sneakers and lets them be like the part of like my outfit that is going to be the loudest, and that's usually what I go for.
Nice. I love that. Well, great
Thank
fashion
you.
advice there as well. So, Diana, thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
thanks
guys for
everyone
having me
for
on too.
viewing. Yeah, of course. Okay, well, have a good one, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back
Thank
soon.
you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.